Okay, start by opening up Bridge. It should look like that. It can be in the Start menu if it's not on your desktop, and All Programs. Now, find a picture on the internet of an eyeball, something that looks like these 3 or 4. I'm going to open up this one. Doesn't matter what kind of eyeball you have, just make sure it looks good, with not too many harsh shadows. Alright, so now we're going to add something on the iris. Go ahead and go to File, and Place. Pick the picture that you want to put on the iris. I'm going to use the sun, and Place. Now, to make this bigger, click and hold Shift, and then drag it. Now right now I'm holding the camera, so I can't do it, but do that, and bring it over the eye, and click Enter. Now as you can see, my little cursor turned to that. Click it, and it'll pop up with this. Rasterize it. When you rasterize it, that means that you're going to be able to draw on that picture. Now, come down here. As you can see, there's 2 layers. What layers are if you draw on this layer, it's not going to be affecting this layer. So that's always really good, you know, for different things. Alright, so make sure you're on the sun layer and go all the way up to Overlay. Overlay changes it so that it blends in with the background. Okay, so now click on your eraser tool and come up here and pick a nice soft brush. Something like that, depending on what size you want. So that's probably pretty good. Now erase everything around the iris. Now I'm doing this fast, so I might make mistakes. But that looks pretty good. Now, as you can see, it looks a little too harsh. So come over here and change the opacity. Bring the slider down, and the further you bring it down, the lighter it gets. The further you bring it up, the darker it gets. 74 is probably pretty good. Okay. Now, say you make a big, nasty blue streak on it. Like, just say that you completely mess it all up. Sorry about that. Say you completely mess it all up, you know, by adding like all these little blue lines. You're like, oh crap, how do I get rid of this? Click and hold Control and then click Z, and that will erase the last thing that you've done. It will undo it. Or say you made too many little scribbles and you can't do it because it only erases one at a time. Go over here and click the History tab. And note that this will not hold every single thing that you've done since you've opened it. So I can click all the way back to open, or say, you know, I go all the way back up here, and there you go, voila, it's gone. So that's really good for, you know, erasing stuff, everything like that. So go ahead and click out of that. Now, we want to put something in the white part of the eye. So do the same thing like you did with the iris. Go to File, Place. I'm going to use Mountains and Trees. And go ahead and hold Shift and drag it out. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Click Enter. Do the same thing over here. Go to Overlay. Make sure you rasterize it. And go and click the eraser tool. Now it's a little small, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so now just go ahead and erase everything on the skin and the iris and the pupil. Make sure you get right here a little rounded. You don't want that too straight. Something like that looks pretty good. Alright, so go ahead and erase everything around there. Make sure you get that side rounded too. Erase everything in the iris. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Now say something down here is a little too light. Come over here and click this and click Burn. What Burn does is it darkens things. Dodging is the exact opposite. I'll teach you more about those in my other tutorials. But right now, the mountains, as you can see, are a little too harsh. So come over here to the opacity and slide it down. That looks about good. You can still see the mountains, but you can also see the white part of the eye and the veins. So that looks pretty nice. It blends in nice. Okay, so now we're going to be coloring the skin. So make a new layer by coming down here and clicking this. This will open up a new layer. Double click it to rename it. So go into that layer and click the brush tool. Change your color by clicking this. But right now we're going to leave it on blue. Make the brush bigger. Let's bring it to about right about there, 764. We're going to go ahead and just color all the eye in. Alright, now come over here, click this, overlay, and it changes it to that. Now erase everything in the white part in the iris. Erase all that nasty stuff. Okay, whoops, got a little too much up there, but that's okay. Just make sure that you don't erase out of the white part or the iris like I did right there. Now come down here, and you can click this to normal to make sure that you didn't leave any leftovers. As you can see, I really made a big mistake up there. But try not to do that, like I said before. So make sure you didn't leave any like blue streaks down here or anything like that. Then change it back to overlay. But sometimes, you know, the eyelashes look a little too blue or too red, whatever. So change this to whatever you want. Let's start at luminosity. Color, saturation, hue, exclusion. Let's start with hue. Now the eyelashes are still blue, so come over here and change the opacity. That looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to add designs. So make a new layer. Call it sparkles. Now come over here with the brush tool and go down here. Now these brushes are not in Adobe Photoshop. I'll add a link to them later. And then you can add nice little sparkles of whatever color that you want if you change the color. Try not to get anything on the white part or the iris. And then come over here and pick one of these or whatever. These mean that you can make your own designs, but let's go ahead and do this. You can add as many designs as you want. It's your picture. And make sure that that's in a new layer, like I have right here. And call it, you know, squiggles or something. Now you're done. You can add your signature by drawing it or using the text tool. Now go to File, Save As. Now you want to save it as a Photoshop PSD if your friends don't like it, or you know your sister wants you to redo it or something like that 1,000 times. so save it like that, and after you save it again. Save as, and this time save it as a JPEG and save it. And then that way you can put it on the internet, everything like that. Alright, well, more tutorials to come. I hope you enjoyed this one, and let me see your final product when you complete it.